away from drama when these teams play. And it's been picked up by Lukanua. Oh, brilliant ball out the back. The Springboks are in. Kick out to the wing. Sabu races there. And he's in the corner. Barrett stepping and breaking into some space. Still on his feet. Rico Ioane gets the offload away. Oh, what a try. Artie Savi is in. Here he goes again. Can he do it again? No, not the, oh, he can. Double, yes, boy, Geordie Barrett, get in there. Oh, penalty. It's there for South Africa. Kicks the goal. And the Springboks win.
Kia ora koutou, katoa, hello and welcome to the breakdown. I tell you what, yes, great drama over the weekend. Great to have the team back. Sir John Kirwan, Batman, if you saw last week, Mills Malaina tonight. Look, what a fantastic weekend it was of action, of course, across the Tasman. Big wins for the Wallabies and a big win for the Springboks. They are now the #1 team in the world again, winning the last game of the Rugby Championship. Big news today, though, coming out of the All Blacks. They've called in some reinforcements. Sir John Kirwan, do you know who Josh Lord is?
Is that the singer's brother?
Spelt differently.
Oh, is it?
Spelt differently.
Yeah, no, I didn't know who it was, to be fair. No disrespect to him. I had to do some research today, and I think it's actually a pretty cool selection. Young man on the way up. So, yeah, when they said he plays for the Chiefs, I was looking, all I saw was Akoi and Tupai out there. Never really saw him, but, yeah, if they think he's a player of the future, they've done this. What did they call it? Mills, what they call it, apprenticeships?
Well, they used to call it that, didn't they, apprenticeship? But he is. He's a good, solid young man, really talented. And what an opportunity for him to go over the end-of-year tour. You know, he's certainly got some X-factor about him as well. So looking forward to seeing how he goes and whether he gets an opportunity overseas. But the chance to be an apprenticeship, I suppose, in some ways is pretty exciting. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, Scott Barrett returning home, Patrick Tuipulotu returning home as well. Mills coming home, family reasons, both of them. I talked to Ian Foster a little bit later on the show, and he explains the situation with them. But if I think about the number of players that are coming in, Sam Cane returns, Sam Whitelock, Shannon Frizzell comes, and Dane Coles, are they significant additions to this squad as they head towards the Northern Hemisphere?
Oh, I think so. They're possibly the two sort of later ones, the experience of them. Sam Cane has been out, the captain's been out for a very long time. Dane Coles, their experience, it just boosts them a little bit more. They had a big, long tour, 6 weeks, they've had a loss. These guys here now bring in a bit more energy, but I definitely think that sort of experience to mould back into the swing of things is going to be looking forward to that.
Look, he hasn't changed province. It was just announced just now that Sam Cane, and he did it himself online, he's playing for King Country this weekend against Whanganui and Taupo. How great is that, JK? Into Heartland, he needs a game. Bay of Plenty have got the bye. I'll tell you what, if in the area, go down and check it out.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic.
We won't be in the area, of course.
No, but the good news, Aucklanders, we can now go hunting. So I'm going to get in my Land Rover, get my hunting gear on and my Auckland hunting boots and go looking for a pigeon in Queen Street. So I'm pretty happy. You know, things are lightening up. Get vaccinated, and we might get back to some restaurants. I don't know who was going to go hunting in Auckland. None of you two idiots. But anyway, let's get back to the footy.
Anyway, I'll tell you who was hunting on the weekend. It was the Springboks, and they were hunting the All Blacks in Mills. This was significant for them. Look, they took the hits in the previous 7 days to last weekend's Test match. The fact everyone challenging the way they had been playing. In 7 days, though, have they suddenly changed their DNA? What happened? Because they said, this is not what we're going to do. We're going to stick to the plan. This wasn't the plan we probably expected. They were very good on the weekend.
Oh, when that ball went to the middle of the park, we were expecting a kick. And I'll tell you what a Test match. This is exactly what you want in a Test match. The way they played, they came out, they expressed themselves a little bit more, and they showed flair, didn't they? You know, some of the stuff that they were doing, that first try went around the back there, those are the sort of the players they've got. They've got that X-factor players, and would you want to be sitting out there and just chasing kicks, JK, if you're him, or expressing yourself the way he did in that first try?
Well, this is my argument after the first game. They were saying that's our DNA, and I'm saying, no, I don't think it is. That was their DNA. I thought they were outstanding. I'm actually really, really pleased they won in a way, because they came out, they played that expansive style. Amazing game of rugby. And did they deserve to win? I think both teams deserved to win, and it came down to errors, and the team that capitalised on those late deserved to win. So they did deserve to win, but it was just an epic Test match. It was one of the best games of rugby I've seen in a long, long time.
Mills, was the difference between the two teams in some ways the experience of the players that the Springboks were able to bring on, the likes of an Elton Junkies and a Francois Steyn, who have been around for a long time, who have experienced winning in big moments, it appeared to me that they were prepared for the pressure in the last parts of the game. And Steyn in particular, Villiers had a tough first 40 minutes. They made a big call here. He's not a natural fullback, but had a big impact on this contest.
And it's amazing too, because both those guys have had limited game time, during this championship. So when you look at it, from front on, that's what it comes down to. These big moments that they've been there before, been there, done that, soaked it all up, and they just went to work on it. And that was probably the difference. Look at that. I mean, for him to do those sort of things when he comes on, that just changed the game.
No, I don't think so. I don't agree, Millsy. I think we lost the Test match because we didn't take 6 points that was left out when we lost our lineouts and got offside too much. I think at the end of the day, that's what it came down for me. Are those players, like, when you think about who's coming on tour, Kane, Dane Coles, I agree with you. If they had been on late, Amour's going to learn from what he did on the weekend. The players, Artie's going to learn about leadership. They had more experience out there at the end, but I think it was, other things in our game that cost us dearly, that put them into the situation.
It's so hard, isn't it? I mean, I want to talk about lineouts as well, because for a number of weeks, all they've been doing is going to the front, and that is the safety ball. And they tried some variation against Argentina, where they brought it down to hopefully have those flies. But still, in the back of that, if you're going to bring that down, it's still a hard pass for the halfback. And if you haven't got, there's no disrespect to the two halfbacks that we have played. If you haven't got an Aaron Smith that can actually bullet pass them to get out, well, we struggle to get our game going, and that's possibly a big area that we fell apart.
Yeah, let's talk about that. The fact that we weren't able to get our game going once again for the second week in a row, or is it just the make-up and the match-up between these two teams? The fact, once again, though, as well, we came out with all the endeavour, we made a mistake early, like we did the week before, and presented them with an opportunity. You talk about the Springboks getting their balance right. Did we get our balance right of our kicking game and our running game, and did we attack the right channels, JK, for the second week in a row?
Yeah, look, I think that when you take out the strike from a line-out, you're taking out half your attack. So that's my issue. When you think about Havili, he was only getting the attack actually from ruck ball when the defences are a lot closer. So did we play our game? Yeah. Did South Africa bring out a different game that was way more dynamic and really good? Yeah. Were they both matched? Yeah. So what did it come down to? I've never seen the All Blacks actually not fix something up from one week to the next. So I think that's a real issue. The other thing that concerns me is, what do you think the French are going to be doing now? What do you think the Welsh are going to do? They're going to put us under enormous pressure there, and it's something. Now, I think Whitelock coming back in, we said before the game, this South African pack have a couple of the biggest and best locks. It was outstanding. Yeah.
So you can't get both sometimes in Test matches in terms of developing talent and wanting to win with your experience. So had Dane Coles been over there, would Asafa Amour got that opportunity to play and put himself in a position to having to make critical throws? No Sam Whitelock, the responsibility falls on somebody else, Mills, to make those key decisions at line-out time. But for me, it looked as though from time to time we bailed out on doing something different. In some ways, it looked as though we weren't quite reading the play well enough to attack the right spaces. But, I mean, if you're David Havili, you're thinking, I'm glad I got a week off, because all I've done for 2 weeks is every time I've got the ball, there's been 2 or 3 men there to blow me backwards. It just seems as though we just never found a way, and this is something we talked about in 2019, to break down pressure defences, and that's what teams will always look at us at and go, you know what, we've got to bring it to the All Blacks.
And it is something different. And to go back to JK's point about, taking those 3 points, when you haven't got experienced guys there and all you're doing is going to the front of the line out, well, you've got to bring variation, because what you're doing is you're actually going right into the Springbok strength. So if you're going to go to the line, they have to be a 5-pointer. And unfortunately, for 2 weeks in a row, they've done that. Perhaps, when you bring it right back in terms of the leadership, that's probably where you need someone like a Whitelock or a Coles and say, well, actually, our line-out's not functioning, and you've got some inexperience here in terms of the hooker. He's not confident to throw it to the back. Let's go for points and build that scoreboard pressure. It's a fine line, because you want to play that up-tempo game against the South Africans and really take the sting out of their legs. But if you don't get it right, this is the result.
But you know what the plus for me on the weekend was? I've got no issues that we lost, because who was on the field at the end. So if Dane Coles was there and Whitelock was there and we win, you don't get that experience. So, the South African side deserved to win.
Yeah.
But we had these young guys out there late, right, that have an experience of a lifetime. That's really going to hurt. So I'm not concerned that we we lose one of these or two of these heading into the next World Cup, because now the goal's every 4 years you've got to win a World Cup. So we're going to be better off for it. You know, Dane Coles is going on tour, and I've been really impressed with Tukulaho and Asama. They've been outstanding. I think that's good. Now, was it their play or just their inexperience that cost them? It's just their experience. And how do you get experience? By losing games like that.
There was one big talking point for me, though, out of the weekend, and it was the sideline behaviour of a certain Springbok support, not player, part of the staff. And I think this is totally unacceptable. Now, look, there was an element of confusion. The Springboks felt as though they had this new 50-20, which has been brought into the game. But Jacques Nienaber today, the coach of the Springboks, admitted that he was impressing on one of his staff, one of the sideline support crew, water boys, whatever you want to call it. He was chasing an assistant referee. And he gets a warning. This is a blight on our game, isn't it? The fact that Rassie Erasmus is under investigation by World Rugby for his comments made about the officials. We just cannot have this in our game, JK. Chasing an assistant referee down the side. I wish they'd kicked him out of the stadium. I really do.
Oh, I totally agree with you. We can't let any of that sort of stuff come into our game from anyone. You know, I just think he should be penalised. I think Rassie should already be penalised. So the World Rugby needs to take action and take it quick. You know, we don't need them another 7 committees to decide on this, because what happens is other teams will do it. So, you know, it's unacceptable. You've got to leave the officials to official. Now, post you can criticise, and we do that, and that's fine, post, but during the game there needs to be the utmost respect. I watch football, a lot of football, Millsy, right? And it's some of the stuff that happens on the field we don't want to see in our game.
No, I mean, you're right. That's uncalled for, and I get his frustration, but it doesn't need to be shown like that. And I just wonder whether, you know, the other water boy, if he was there, whether, you know, the referees would have done exactly the same thing, given, you know, that Rassie was the water boy in that Lions series, and how that sort of eventuated. And I don't know, not sure where that's what's happening there as well, but. It just didn't look good at all.
They're everywhere too. Water boys. They're everywhere.
There's a fun. Yeah, we've got to get that out of the game. Don't start me on water boys from anyone. But at the end of the day, they didn't know the rules. Neither did I, to be fair. I didn't know that rule either. However,
it's a new law. They're laws now. They've always been laws, sorry. So, look, I mean, there's plenty out of that game that we discussed, but we need to get a South African perspective, because we had a lot to say 7 days ago. And Nick Mallet's a former Springbok coach. Nick, thanks for joining us on The Breakdown. Smiling away, of course you are, because you're back to #1 in the world. Let's just talk about this. How important was it that this Springbok team finished the Rugby Championship for a win in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it was pretty vital. We won the World Cup. We did well against the British Lions. We won the series, you know, despite the style of rugby we chose to play. And we had a very disappointing tour up to Saturday. It was a very big game for us, in the sense that you go 0 out of 4. It would have made that Northern Hemisphere tour tough. The criticism in South Africa gets pretty intense when you lose, despite the fact it would have been 3 very close games. So to come out with a win against, you know, our most respected and formidable opponents was outstanding for South Africa. I was listening into what you guys said and about the strength and conditioning guy charging up and down. I agree with you entirely. I think that's appalling behaviour. And he didn't know the laws either. So he got that completely wrong. And a number of South African guys have got it wrong. They've posted that clip saying that the referee should have given us a line out in their 22, and it was just incorrect. But, you know, when you get passionate supporters and the laws are quite complex, you come up with those strange decisions.
Nick, it's lovely to see you. The last time you and I together, we were singing "Don't Look Back in Anger" by Oasis, mate. You were going good too at the time. But that was Japan when the world was really different, Nick. But this contrast that we're seeing from South Africa, I was really critical the week before, because they said, you know, this is our DNA. Whereas on the weekend, I really think that is South Africa DNA, you know, that mix of that hard running, high kicks and running the ball. But against the Lions and then the first test, there seems to be some confusion about what a South African style is. I mean, what's your opinion on it?
Well, I think you're 100% right. I think we lost the first test against you guys, the 100th test, in the last 5 minutes by kicking away 5 or 6 balls. And it seemed as though they were playing robotically to a game plan. That just didn't make sense. We turned over a couple of balls in those last 5 minutes. We had numbers against you guys. It doesn't matter whether you're in your half or not. When you've got an opportunity to hold on to the ball and take it to the opposition and when you're leading with 3 minutes to go, you're more likely to get a penalty awarded to you. And we kicked away possession, allowing the best counter-attacking team in the world to run back at us. And of course, they won the penalty, which won the game. So what was very disappointing was that it appeared that kicking was our only option in that first test. And it's not. South Africa proved in the World Cup final against England that we do play very well off turnovers. Both tries I think we scored were off turnovers. And obviously, if we manage to get a penalty advantage, we often have a crack off that. But generally, we're not as skillful as the Antipodean teams. Australia and New Zealand have better attack than we do. But we do have a better set piece, in my view, and we have a better driving maul. So if we can win penalties from that and get territory through a kicking game, and then pressurize with a very physical defense, which gives you turnovers, we have to then use those turnover opportunities to score tries. And the second test against the British Lions, we did exactly that. A guy like Colby was fantastic and can score tries from situations where you play against unstructured defense. And what we didn't do in that first test against you guys was play off turnovers. We just kicked it. And what was so good about this second test was that we had a crack. You guys left 3 players back for our kicking game, and which opened up more space for us. And we got really good momentum. There are a couple of good carries in midfield. We proved, even that is a bit lateral, but at least the guys are going forward. They're running onto the ball. We had Itzebeth once who made a great break down the middle of the field. Here, where would we have ever seen that? Faf throw a 20-meter pass across the field on our 22 because you've left guys back. And it was just so much more encouraging. Here, we should have scored. This is a situation where New Zealand score. The quality of our pass after we'd made the break wasn't good enough. But stole a line out. Mbanambi very nearly got over the line. That brilliant pass behind his back from Lukanya Am proves that we've got players capable of playing good, attractive, attacking rugby. It's just that they've got to, the players, the drivers, the 9, 10 and 15, have to spot that opportunity and take it when it happens.
Nick, you've spoken about it. Historically, your strengths have been your kicking game, the physicality of your big forwards. But your domestic game is actually quite expansive. You've encouraged different rules to allow your schoolboys rugby to play a bit more. This result in the weekend, is this going to go a long way into getting that balance right in terms of the game that you can play, that kicking game, and also balancing it up with the flair that you have got out wide?
Well, I really hope so, Mills. We've got tremendous backline players in South Africa, and what worried me a little bit was that we choose for the national side to play a certain way, which is Test match rugby is all about winning the game, and so we play to our strengths. And South Africa's strengths are without doubt our set piece. We produce these very big, powerful prop forwards and locks. We can bring guys off the bench who are fresh, who are just as big as the guys you start. And if we can, if the laws as they are, which allow you to win penalties from scrums and penalties from driving mauls in the line-out, we'd be stupid to play away from those strengths. We also are a country that loves physicality. We defend really well. In fact, we don't attack particularly well because we want to run into people instead of drawing people and passing. But the physicality of South Africans is something you can't take away from us. So Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Nienaber have exploited this. And what I found absolutely fascinating was New Zealand used the set piece generally to get the ball into the back line and have a crack and start getting phases going. And your tight forwards play like loose forwards, brilliant handling of the ball, and it's spectacular to watch. But South Africa can't compete at that level. But I would say that New Zealand struggled to compete against the physicality of South Africa at the moment, because in that first test match, we got a lot of turnovers, we got a lot of penalties, we won 4 of your lineouts. So it's a clash of styles, which I really liked. But what I was encouraged, and to get back to your question, I think that our schools rugby and our provincial rugby will follow the lead of the national side. And to see us passing the ball in situations where you have left 3 guys back, which means that you've got lesser numbers in the front line. So, we've got more numbers. We should pass it. We should learn to run straight and create these opportunities. I really hope that this filters down to our provincial sides and also particularly to our school sides. Because if we could match our physicality in the pack and in driving mauls and our great defence, if we could increase our attacking ability, we would be just that much better as a team. And obviously, I think that we'd be probably more attractive to watch. But I think this last test match on Saturday, whoever won the game, it was a great exhibition of rugby from both teams, and I thought it was well refereed as well.
The fact you're talking about physicality with 3 outside backs is just wasted. The people at home would have loved it and appreciated it, but for us, we're just going, we don't want to borrow that. When you start with skill and speed, that's what we're interested in. But we congratulate your team. One of the other reasons we wanted you on the show, though, was to test our knowledge. We've asked you tonight to give us a trivia question. Ooh. Please, Nick, before you go, and thanks for joining us. What are you testing us with tonight?
Oh, it's a pleasure.
What's the question?
Pleasure, Jeff. Nice talking to you. I know the other two had a bit of physicality, but I think you were a bit more on the skill side, I think. The question.
Unlucky, mate. Unlucky.
Is that a nice way of saying I was afraid?
Is that the question?
That's a nice. Have you got a trivia question for us? We thought we just.
I have. Listen.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, quickly. We got Elton Yankees kicking a drop goal on Saturday. Can you tell me which South African rugby player has kicked the most drop goals against New Zealand?
Thanks, Nick. We'll get thinking. I don't know. Have you guys ever kicked? I don't know if they have. Thanks, Nick. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers, mates. Okay, while we're thinking on that, let's go to a break. Plenty more to talk about after this.
It was back to the Gold Coast, and how about that finish? I think this guy's eyes summed it up. Whoa. Blackadder was looking fierce. Leonard Brown was celebrating like it was the end of an 80s feel-good movie. The physio stopped the game to see if Scott Barrett was ticklish. Over there. What about if I do it up here? One of the South African staff had been a very bad boy.
If I see you chasing my touch shot up the line again, you'll be off.
What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.
And of course, the big question this weekend was what were those pink undies Akira Ioane was wearing? And where can I get a pair? Well, I can tell you they were eggplant budgie smugglers and they're 60 Aussie dollars. Wait, $60 for a pair of undies? Money bags? Good to see Ian Foster's chin is well protected from COVID. This was hard to watch. What's this guy trying to do to his mate's hand? Is he trying to hold it or high-five it or grab it? Just a complete botch-up. Artie was just about to score, but then I think he saw somebody he used to go to school with. This was a bit on the nose from TJ.
Oh, there he is. I'll tell you what, when he retires, they'll write 2 books. One about him, one about his nose.
Oh.
They certainly will.
I think Marshy was trying to do a haiku or something.
Passes sticking, players in motion, and every single time a good decision.
Passes sticking, players in motion, and every single time a good decision. And that was Off the Ball this week.
You're the best around. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down.
Nobody's safe. Welcome back. Yes, plenty to talk about. We've got to first, though, clean up the trivia question from Nick Mallet. And I got the answer, to be fair, because I had to ask the question after the break. So who was it that kicked the most drop goals for the Springboks against the All Blacks? So, John Kerwin, would you like to go first? Or?
Well, I was going to say Joel Stransky. I know he kicked a big one. But then I thought it might have been Steyn, actually, because remember they had that period about 10 years ago when he was in his prime and they just drop-kicked from everywhere.
Well, they're both wrong. So we'll move on to Mills.
Mornay Steyn.
No, not Mornay Steyn. Percy Montgomery. Of course, obviously.
Big Percy.
Percy Montgomery has kicked 3.
Is that all?
Yanni de Beer, Joel Stransky. There it is. Andre Pollard, Mornay Steyn.
3? I thought it'd be more
Percy
than
Montgomery, he was a heck of a player. Played a lot of test matches. Did love to drop back into the pocket.
Fullback.
Yeah. Look at that. That's high.
Where is that?
Stay out of the picture.
Jade, isn't it?
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, Healthspan Elite Performer of the Game this week. And here are the 3 that were nominated, and 2 of the same from last week. That's what you call consistency. And Artie Savia, Geordie Barrett and Bodie Barrett were the 3 from the weekend, and you voted at home and you decided it was Artie Savia. Mills, I'm going to say this, I believe that this is probably, even in a losing result, one of Artie Savia's best games in the All Black jersey.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think all round in terms of what he sort of brought, and you've got to remember, he's still the captain as well, but he went out there and led from the front, you know, as they always say, his running game, his ability to get in support, but also getting over the ball in terms of that sort of loosey play as well. And we used to seeing this all the time, but, man, he was immense, wasn't he?
You want your leader, your captain, to set the example, and he's had to switch from number 8 to open side flanker. Interesting conversations going forward about where he's going to get the opportunity to play. Is he better at 7 or 8 for you, JK?
Oh, I like him at 7.
Yep.
I think he's really dynamic at 7. I think the only question mark that Artie would probably ask of himself is, did he nail it as a captain? From a performance point of view, unbelievable. Like you said, 8, 6, 7. I think he's a 7, really dynamic. You know, should we have taken some shots at goal? Now, you probably say that's the whole leadership group, and that's maybe where he did miss people like Whitelock there to help him. So, but yeah, he's had an outstanding competition. The captaincy has really brought something out in him.
Mills, who is the incumbent fullback now for the All Blacks?
Oh, gee.
Because you think about who we selected earlier on the season when Richie Mo'unga was playing at 10, Damien McKenzie was getting his...
Hang on.
But in the last 2 weeks, hold on, let me finish.
You can't
Geordie
say
Barrett
incumbent,
has been
though.
Outstanding against South Africa. Is he the incumbent because of his goal kicking? Because it's such an asset? Or his all-round game improvement? JK, you'll get your chance. I've asked Mills.
No, but I think the question's wrong, mate, because we haven't had an
always think
incumbent.
the questions are wrong.
No, but we haven't had an incumbent since Ben Smith. We've been changing around. So...
Well, last year
Is he now? I think he has to be. I think the element that you've sort of brought in terms of this bit here, he's really stepped up. And it's maturity. He's taken it off, you know, obviously his brother as well, but his accuracy in that in big moments against South Africa too. He's just thrived on regular game time. Man, when you look at someone like Damien McKenzie, you've got to feel for him because he started those, you know, those first internationals as the fullback. Geordie gets an opportunity, and like we were saying, when you get an opportunity, he's actually taken it. So where does he go to now? Well, he's just running so hot. I'll keep him out there.
I agree.
I totally agree, but that's... I can't answer that question because we haven't had an incumbent. We haven't played with fixed back 3 since the World Cup. Yep. And I think it cost us in the World Cup. We've had Bowden back there, we've had Geordie back there, we've had Damien back there. So my question back to you guys, especially you, Mills, who played a lot there, well, so did you, Goldie, so did both of you, like, are we now saying, let's get back to fixed players, a fullback and 2 wings?
I think he's stamped his mark on that, and that was why I think his goal kicking, his ability in the air, but also his strength. I mean, he's really coming into that sort of mould. So he's really getting comfortable in that. So you've got to keep him out there.
I actually agree with both of you. I think you do. The fact he's winning kickoffs for us when we need it in the middle of the game. He's doing everything that's been asked of him as an All Black fullback. Well, earlier on this afternoon, of course, the All Blacks remain in Australia. They've now got a weekend off, this rest and relaxation. I had a chance to catch up and talk to Ian Foster about his new recruits and the end-of-year tour. Well, Fozzie, thanks for joining us on The Breakdown, 36 hours after the last game of the Rugby Championship. Significant news today, though. You've got a new All Black coming into the frame. Josh Lloyd out of the Chiefs and Taranaki. What do you make of him and the fact that Scott and Patrick have had to head home?
Oh, look, we're delighted with Josh. You know, he got, Shandy phoned him this morning and told him the news. And so he's pretty excited with that, I gather. But, you know, we've been looking at him the last couple of years through the age group stuff. He's a big boy, he's skillful, he's quick, and we love his training ethos and his discipline on and off the park. And we just see, going to use this particular leg of this tour to actually give him a chance to come in and have a look and get used to the environment and hopefully see him grow in the next 5 weeks. So excited about it.
Were Scott and Patrick always scheduled to come back to New Zealand? Of course, there's a big discussion at the moment in around MIQ spots. Is it the fact they were scheduled to come back, or they just got lucky and got the opportunity to?
Oh, I think we flagged right at the start that, this is we're on a tour of like no other really in our history in terms of, we're on the road for 12 weeks and then 2 weeks quarantined. Historically, we'd come back to New Zealand after the Rugby Championship for a couple of weeks break. Obviously, this can't happen, and we know that. We've got some players with family situations that meant that we signalled at the start that we were keen to send a couple of players home after the Rugby Championship, but we had no certainty about that. So, I think both Scott and Hannah and Paddy and Phoenix and New Zealand Rugby, we've been doing whatever we can to try to find a couple of spots for that. And it was only last week that we were lucky enough to get some. So there's been no certainty about it, but we're obviously delighted that we're able to do that for them. And it has, in many ways, it would have been quite nice to rename the squad and to actually probably maybe give a few guys a break and maybe send them home and introduce a few other new players in some ways. But, we can't do that. So the group that went on this plane in August is committed to the end of November now. But in the case of Paddy and Scott, we're delighted, the way that's worked out. And I know the frustration. Yeah, they did. They went into the draw, and I understand the frustration, and it's there's in some ways there's nothing fair, but we haven't been given any special favours. It's and I get where everyone else is at. If people find a spot, they're incredibly grateful, and if they don't, they're frustrated. I'm going through the same as a dad myself, trying to get my daughter back from San Diego, and that's not working very good. So I understand both sides of the coin.
All right, let's look at what you have introduced back in, the likes of Sam Cane. He returns. He's trying to get some rugby here before he goes to Australia, before you head to America. Sam Whitelock comes back in. In regards to Sam Cane, will he immediately go back to being the All Black captain in your group?
Look, no, not initially. I think Sam's been out for a long time, and the way that I guess we're positioned is that the five guys coming over are joining this group, and this group's been working well, through this whole Rugby Championship. We've now got a couple of weeks together here, a week off in a training camp, and then the first time we link up is in Washington, and what will be a limited preparation week that week. So, our goal is when we get the group together in Washington, we'll have a look at see where everyone is. The likelihood is that Sam Cane is going to need some reintroduction to rugby. Like he was supposed to play for Bay this week, but that's been cancelled. But we're hoping that he could potentially get a Heartland game. So we're trying to work through things. He's really keen to get a game of rugby for a Heartland team. So hopefully that can work if anyone's listening. And then we'll assess people when over there. So and we'll let you know in that Washington week.
Okay, so let's talk about looking forward now on the back of what you've just gone through with the Rugby Championship. What are the last two games against South Africa? What did they tell you? Did they give you an immediate focus on what you need in the next 5 Test matches to end 2021?
Yeah, look, I think they did. It's we were rolling along pretty well up until then, and I think when you look at it upon reflection, we were 1-1 against the South Africans, probably a fair reflection of those two games. And we went into there and they were desperate to win those, and they're a very established team and probably really desperately needed that win for a whole lot of reasons. And so I think that we played a South African team that I think last week played as good as I've seen them play for 2 or 3 years. And they're, like I said, a very established team. We're probably a growing team, and so as much as we don't like losing, it did show that we've still got a little bit more growth in us, and that's both disappointing and very, very exciting at the same time. But clearly we've got to get a little bit better in some areas. We've got a lot of pressure on our line out and the delivery of our line out. I thought our ability to get game line stuff off set piece was very good when it was very good, we hurt them badly, but we didn't get it enough And so that's a combination between, I guess, our strategy and also how we actually do stuff. So there's some learning going on, but a fair reflection and plenty for us to actually get a little bit angry about.
And that's not a bad thing in the All Black jersey. We've always talked about the need for adversity. This is a really challenging end-of-year tour. If you think about what you're up against, the top 3 teams from the Six Nations, you're taking on Wales and Cardiff, you've got Ireland at home, and then you've got France to finish the season. You always wanted to find out about players. In some ways, is this the perfect time for you to find out where some of these guys sit right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think, COVID has meant the last 12 months we've had a really limited variety of opposition and limited number of test matches. So, whilst this tour is incredibly long in many ways and it's got a whole lot of different challenges off the park, on the park, it is going to give us a variety of opposition that I think we need. And, I think you saw that against South Africa when you had the likes of you got the likes of a George Bauer, a Safo, Samasoni, you got a Kira, Luke Jacobson, David Avili, Will Jordan, those sort of players. It was the first time they'd played South Africa. And for them to feel what the pressure that those sort of teams bring and what that means to us is key for our growth going forward. So again, I'm overall delighted with the response. I think we're in a good place. I think we know we're not the finished product yet, but we're also excited about the culture, the way the guys are working together, and how we're playing. And to go to Europe now and play some big teams, all with a slightly different strategy, is going to be gold for us and one we've got to treasure.
Lastly, Michael Hooper, after his last game of the Rugby Championship on the weekend, talked about the fact they really enjoyed the concept of a competition being played in one country. Do you think that's something that maybe could be considered in the future, given 4-year cycle, 4-year teams, maybe Argentina host the year of a Rugby World Cup? Is there an appetite for you, given it gives it that real tournament feel?
No, not at all. I think it's a COVID thing. I think Australia did a good job of it, and they did create that little bit of a tournament feel to a certain degree. But let's face it, it was forced upon us, and I still believe Test matches are ideally played in a country of the 2 teams that are playing. I think that creates the best atmosphere and the best environment and the most testing environment. And there's nothing like going to Ellis Park or to Durban and playing the Springboks, and there's nothing for them like coming to Eden Park. So I still believe that the formula, I like the idea of some mini type tours, but I don't think the Rugby Championship should turn into a tournament. And whilst the double headers worked from a logistical view, I think there's enough in one test match to go back to the formula we had.
Yeah, look, we do some great action. I'm wondering whether or not it's the fact they got some momentum, the Wallabies. Let's be honest. I mean, for them, the last 4 weeks has been massive for them. Would you like to have had one more crack this year, given where they're at?
Well, we've played them 7 times in the last 18 months, so I think that's probably
so maybe
enough,
not.
Goldie. And I think, look, at the end of the day, test matches are about fronting up on the day, isn't it? It's not about having enough games. We didn't do well today, we'll do well tomorrow. There's no tomorrow in test matches, and that's one of the beauties of them. So, we had 3 chances to play the Aussies, and we played well and had the upper hand. We know that they're a good team. We said that at the time, and we found a formula against them. But I guess they'll be working hard on that, and they're certainly looking at growing their game. But we've got to make sure we grow ours.
I was just kidding. I'm just trying to find out, Bozzy. Hey, mate, thanks very much. Hey, look, enjoy your week off. You guys deserve it. You're on the road for a lot longer, but, mate, we look forward to the next part of the season and the way 2021 ends. We'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, mate. Thanks, Sam.
Great to chat to him, and there's no doubt you look at the end-of-year tour and it's got some challenges. Look, they start off in Washington against the US of A. Now, that won't be a challenge. They'll win that game, but it's another opportunity to give players an opportunity in the All Black jersey. Wales, Italy, Ireland, then France. You think about Wales, the Six Nations champions, and then to finish 2021 in Paris, remembering we play France in the opening game of the Rugby World Cup in 2023. That is going to be a challenging tour. Now, I look at the names and the players that have come back in, and he mentioned then Sam Cane's obviously got some things he needs to do in terms of on-the-field performance, JK. So that discussion around captaincy, because Sam Whitelock, before he stayed at home, was the All Black captain. What direction do you think they might head for this tour in terms of leadership, or will it get shared around?
No, Whitelock.
Is that your answer? It's just like him saying no, we don't, it's pure and simple. That's your final answer? Is that the simple answer?
Well, the simple answer is that I think Ardie would have grown incredibly from that experience. Does that side of the captaincy sit well on them? I don't know. It sits well on Whitelock. And I think he made some incredibly good tactical decisions. Remember at Eden Park, one man down, slows the game down. You know, I just think he is a really good captain. I'm not taking anything away from Ardie, but I reckon if you said to Ardie, Sam's back at captain, he'd go, phew. Good, I don't have to do those interviews, I can just play footy.
Yeah.
That's what I feel, I don't know that.
It is. What it would have done, it would have enhanced his leadership anyway. I think that experience in terms of what he's done, and I think the great thing about it is that he performed on the field, he performed his role, but having that experience, you know, all the stuff off the field and also being able to be in charge on the field, it's just going to enhance his leadership. So when you hear Ian Foster say things like that, you know, even guys that are really inexperienced, you know, they've gone through a little bit of pressure. I mean, that only be while going forward, and this is a big tour they've got going up. You know, then a couple of weeks off before they hit, well, you know, Washington. There's an Italy game where they might perhaps sort of, you know, experiment a little bit, but then those last three they're just going to be massive. So they're probably going to work within blocks. The important thing for the All Blacks is they actually reset and don't use this disappointment of this last loss to say, hey, it wasn't really a success, because it's been a successful season so far. They just need to kick on now.
This is an important tour, JK, for Ian Foster as well, in the fact in terms of to build on the resume of 2021, the fact they would love to have been here so close to being unbeaten had they made the progress. You look at this group, bringing back the likes of Dane Coles. How valuable do you think that's going to be going into this end-of-year tour?
I've noticed a noticeable change in Ian Foster's confidence and his demeanour since he's been reconfirmed. I think he's just way more relaxed. He's now letting us in a wee bit to his plans, telling us what he's thinking. You know, it's about World Cup, so Dane Coles is an important tour for him because he needs to, you know, he's been in and out of the team through injury. His experience will be fantastic. I just think you start playing him against Wales and coming on the last 20 minutes when Cody comes off. I don't think he's number one anymore, but great to be there, and he'll win you a World Cup late.
Yeah, look, I can't wait to see that team, that group of players in action in a couple of weeks' time. Well, you talk about big winners from the weekend, and particularly the last month. You'd have to say the Wallabies have been one of the teams that have made the big shifts after an impressive win again on the weekend.
Argentina fan in defence. Out the back for Cooper. Holding it up for Samu Karevi. It's another try for AK. Ball playing out the back. No look, oh no way! Callaway has a hat-trick.
2 wins against the Springboks, 2 wins against the Pumas. What they've done, they've opened up some doors, Mills. They've brought back some significant players with impact, Samu Karevi being one of them. All of a sudden, a little bit of depth. Dave Rennie effect finally starting to come, and now all of a sudden they've got... And it doesn't take them long to start believing, right? It's they're back. They're back. Oh, we don't have to play the All Blacks anymore. So they've got to kick on from here when they go on their Northern Hemisphere tour.
Absolutely. And what that's also done is it's encouraged people to look at the Wallabies now and get really, you know, excited about it. So they've gone in with the approach, if their national team is successful, well, hopefully they'll grow the numbers, you know, down bottom. Don't worry about Super Rugby and how that sort of looks like bringing other players back. But they really need to kick on. They've shown some quality stuff. They're starting to get a little bit of depth, and some of those more experienced players coming back, JK, especially Quade Cooper. He's been amazing.
Yeah, what a story. I just think that's so good. But for me, I think there's lots of pressure on our rugby players and our competitions, and now it's nations picking horses for courses. So if it's best for Australia to be competitive bringing players back, just do it. I mean, what are the long-term effects? You've got to look about what's coming through. But, you know, South Africa are now letting their players play overseas, been doing that for a few years. So, yeah, I think they've been a massive distance, career really good. I think there is a Dave Rennie effect. I mean, they beat us in Wellington last year, and they've started to build and started to get a style that's not ours. It's actually starting to be quite an Australian style, and I think that's important.
It tells me, Mills, too, that I think it's a mental thing against the All Blacks now. It's actually not an on-field performance in terms of ability. It's about getting across that hump. And I think if they can get that one done, then all of a sudden they're looking very dangerous.
Oh, absolutely. And you've got to remember, too, there's a couple of big moments. You know, those intercept tries, they're mental. That's a mental sort of decision you have to make. They've certainly got quality in terms of what they perform on the field. It's about doing it for the whole 80 minutes and experiencing it. And they've got a core group of players that are being able to do that at the moment.
Well, I tell you what, though, yes, the All Blacks have been in action, but finally, in a couple of weeks' time, the Black Ferns are going to be doing the same overseas. They are in camp currently. One of our own here from the Breakdown, Chelsea Alley, well, she took us a trip through outfitting. A great time for any player coming into a national squad.
Kia ora guys, we're here in our first day back in Black Ferns camp before we head away on our northern tour. We're here getting our outfitting done, which is always really, really exciting for me and the girls. We'll go catch up with a few of them and see what the vibe's like.
Oh, it's just great to be back with such inspiring women, and it's always like Christmas for especially our new girls coming in, but even for myself who's been in the team for so long, it's always good to get a few bags full of gear to take home to family.
I'm very grateful. I opened the bag and I think me and Amy opened it for the first time. We just screamed everything we picked up. It was just a bit overwhelming, but yeah, very grateful.
I remember for me it was the first time getting my first ever Black Ferns branded stuff. How does it feel getting a whole bag full of stuff to say you are a Black Fern? You get to wear that around.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I've had the development stuff before, so this is like another step up, and yeah, dream come true really.
So big question for this year though is, did they actually have boots in your size this year? Because most of the time they don't.
No, you're right. So the years, probably 10 years that I've been playing, I've had to wear kids' boots, but now Adidas, they make a boot for me, which I get every year, which is really exciting. So I got mine last week. I've had a chance to wear them already, and I'm ready to roll.
This was actually meant to be for GM. It's a double XL, and it fits me quite snug. But our doctor wears these. This is his normal attire, so.
Right, so it's not actually Adidas branded, that's just our doctor style, is it?
Yeah.
I reckon we need to get all of these for all of the girls. What do you reckon?
Please don't.
And heading away on tour, Elmo, lots of things. We're going into the unknown. We're playing against England and France. What are you most looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to getting on the plane and playing test footy. You know, we played some games against the Barbars last year, but playing test footy is so different, and playing the top two teams in the world. Really excited about that. We just want to get on the plane and get over there.
Strong run. Basilito Tossi with the carry. Get out of my way. Campbell. There's the big man again. Oh, and he's still going. You can't stop him. Ladies and gentlemen, meet New Zealand's next rugby cult hero.
Gotta love it. Great action from the previous weekend. There's plenty of it coming on. Yes, there's some challenges already still here for the Auckland teams. We know that's what they're facing. But the FPC final rematch, JK, of last year's final, which Canterbury got up late over Waikato. Waikato got out of Dodge. They're in Cambridge. They managed to sneak out there so they can prepare and go down. Doing this without their Black Ferns, though. But big occasion for them. You never underestimate trying to win a national title.
Yeah, it brings everything, doesn't it? You watch any sort of grand finals. I was watching the Rugby League last night. Any grand final I've played in, it's just a different week and a different moment. And, you know, if the teams are well balanced, it should go to the wire. So looking forward to it.
Last year, I mean, Waikato were dominant, weren't they, throughout the whole season? And they went down there, heart-wrenching stuff to lose it like that. But Canterbury have they've just been the dominant team throughout the 4 or 5 years. So without their Black Ferns, could be a tough ask for Canterbury down there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
What a tough ask is, though, JK. The Auckland teams, Auckland, North Harbour and Counties, pretty much running out of time to play any part in this year's NPC.
Yeah, look, I think about player safety, and I'd love for them to be able to play, but like I'm tired if I walk to the gate and back after 6 weeks of lockdown, you know, eating and stuff. So if they've been in lockdown and training individually and come out next week and actually have to play 3 times a week, I actually think it's quite dangerous.
Yeah, and also the fact they're going to have to double up, you know, they sort of, you know, to try and chase it, but probably midweek games to try and get themselves back into it. It's not looking good. I mean, I think that the longer this goes on, we don't actually know when we're going to get out. It's probably going to, call a time to say, well, forget about the Auckland sides, which is, I know it's disappointing, but, at some stage, the rest of the competition has to go on, right?
Yeah, and I think it's really important that we get some clarity about what is going to happen. I know it's unfortunate for those players. I mean, in some ways, can you get just one round, everyone playing each other, and get the top team who comes out of that being the best side in New Zealand for a year? Because what we have seen, you get the sense that anyone can beat anyone this year. There have been some outstanding performances. Northland were great on the weekend. Southland last weekend, so good and close to beat Canterbury. Last week, what we did do is we give you the opportunity to win the greatest All Black 15 magazine. Here are our winners from last week. Here they are: Keith Edwards, Rev Apelu Teula, Bruce Woodhouse, Malcolm Page, Maury Anderson, Paul Scott, Nancy Gordon and John Noamu. OK. All right, JK, so news comes out today and you talked about it already. What are you going to do with your limited amount of freedom? Just quickly, you're going hunting?
Yeah, I'm going hunting. That's what I'm doing.
And what are you doing?
My kids are back at daycare, mate. I can't wait.
Yes. They are back at daycare. That's why you're so stoked to be here. Look, plenty of great action coming up this weekend. Great to be with you once again here on The Breakdown. We'll see you in 7 days. Mā te wā.
Blockbuster finale. Using beautiful feet, stays on his feet and finds Ioane. Ioane stays on his feet. Oh, brilliant! Simply superb. De Klerk. Yankees, Mapipi's in the corner. Yankees, it's over. Penalty from in front. The Springboks with a chance to win it. Elton Yankees, what a finale it's been. Spirit, heart, muscle. The Springboks pull off a famous win.